The sound of her laughter echoed through the quiet of the house, light and carefree, the kind that used to fill me with joy. But tonight, as I stood in the doorway of the living room, it felt like a knife twisting in my chest. Emily, my wife of 10 years, was sitting on the couch, her phone in hand, typing away with a smile that I hadn't seen in years. "What's so funny?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. She glanced up, startled. "Oh, just a funny meme Sarah sent me," she replied quickly, turning the screen away as if on reflex. Then she stood and stretched, her movements fluid and unbothered. "I'm heading to bed early. Long day tomorrow." I nodded, watching her as she left the room, her phone still clutched tightly in her hand. For months now, her behavior had been changing, subtly at first, but unmistakably. The late nights at work, the whispered phone calls, the guarded way she carried herself, it all painted a picture I wasn't ready to face. But tonight, something inside me cracked. I waited until I heard the soft creak of our bedroom door closing before I sat down on the couch where she'd been. Her tablet was lying on the coffee table, forgotten in her rush to retreat. I hesitated, my hands hovering over the device. We'd always trusted each other implicitly, but this wasn't the woman I'd married. The Emily I knew wouldn't hide her phone, wouldn't laugh at private messages she couldn't share with me. The decision felt like crossing a line, but my gut told me I needed answers. I unlocked the tablet, she'd never changed the password, and opened her messaging app. My heart sank as I scrolled through the conversations. Most were harmless, filled with mundane chatter about work and friends. But one name stood out: Ryan. The messages weren't explicit, but they didn't need to be. The tone was clear. They were flirtatious, filled with inside jokes and references to last night and "can't wait to see you again." Each word was a dagger to my chest. I sat there in stunned silence, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. This wasn't just a coworker or a friend. This was something deeper, something intimate. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't look at Emily without replaying those messages in my mind. Every time her phone buzzed, every time she left the room to take a call, it felt like another brick being laid on the wall growing between us. I didn't confront her, not yet. I wasn't sure what I wanted. Answers, closure, revenge? All I knew was that the woman I'd built my life with had betrayed me. It was a week later when she told me she had to go out of town for a work conference. She kissed me goodbye at the door, her suitcase in hand, and promised to call when she arrived. I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside, my mind was racing. This was it, the opportunity to find out the truth. After she left, I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. It felt extreme, invasive even, but I couldn't live in the shadow of doubt any longer. If she was lying to me, I needed proof. The investigator worked quickly. Within days, he handed me a folder filled with photos and documents. Emily hadn't gone to a conference. She'd gone to a hotel an hour away, where she'd spent the weekend with Ryan. The photos showed them laughing, holding hands, and sharing moments that should have been ours. My heart broke all over again as I flipped through the evidence, each image a cruel confirmation of what I already knew. I sat in my car that night, parked on the side of an empty street, staring at the folder in my lap. Anger, sadness, betrayal, they all swirled inside me, fighting for dominance. But beneath it all, a new feeling began to take shape. Clarity. Emily had made her choice, and now it was time for me to make mine. Over the next few days, I began to prepare. I opened a new bank account and transferred half of our savings into it. I found a small apartment on the other side of town and signed a lease. I started packing my things, slowly at first, so she wouldn't notice. I wanted to leave, but I didn't want to leave empty-handed. Emily returned from her conference the following Sunday, looking radiant and relaxed. "How was your weekend?" she asked casually as she unpacked her suitcase. "Quiet," I replied, forcing a smile. "I just worked around the house." She nodded, clearly uninterested in my answer, and disappeared into the bedroom. I watched her go, the weight of my decisions settling on my shoulders. This wasn't the life I wanted anymore. This wasn't the marriage I deserved. That night, as she slept beside me, I wrote a note. It was short, just a few sentences, but it said everything I needed to say. I placed it on the kitchen counter, along with my wedding ring, and quietly walked out the door. I didn't look back. The morning sunlight streaming through the window of my new apartment felt foreign but refreshing. It was the first morning in years that I felt free of the doubts, the lies, and the constant ache of betrayal. As I sipped my coffee, I thought about the life I was leaving behind and the one I was about to start. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was necessary. Emily tried to contact me in the days that followed. Her calls and messages flooded my phone, but I didn't answer. I couldn't. What was there left to say? The damage had been done, and I wasn't about to reopen old wounds. Then, about a week later, she showed up at my door. I opened it to find her standing there, tears streaming down her face. She held the note I'd left, her hands trembling as she clutched it tightly. "Please let me explain," she said, her voice breaking. I stepped aside, letting her in. She sat on the couch, her eyes red and puffy, and began to talk. She confessed everything: the affair, the lies, the moments she'd chosen someone else over me. She begged for forgiveness, saying she'd made a mistake, that she still loved me, that she wanted to fix what we had. I listened, my heart heavy, but I didn't feel the anger I thought I would. Instead, I felt an overwhelming sense of sadness, for her, for us, for everything we'd lost. When she finished, I took a deep breath and said the words I knew she didn't want to hear. "I forgive you, Emily, but I can't come back." She looked at me, her eyes wide with shock. "Why not? We can fix this. We can go to therapy, start over." I shook my head. "Because forgiving you isn't about going back. It's about letting go. I deserve better than what we've become, and so do you. We both need to move on." She sobbed, pleading with me to reconsider. But my mind was made up. For the first time in years, I was choosing myself. I wasn't going to let her betrayal define me or my future.